6-year-old Luich Teutsch lived in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, in 1971 with her parents and her 8-year-old brother Michael. On the evening of May 14, 1971, Luich and Michael were playing outside their Jwad Road home. A man approached them just before 9 p.m. He offered Luich $8 to take a walk with him down the street, which she accepted. The man also offered Michael money to go ride his bike to distract him while he walked away hand in hand with Luich. Michael alerted his mother when the man and Luich did not return, and the police were called. 4 hours later, Luich's body was found less than a mile from her house in the backyard of a Hickory Avenue home. It was around 1 a.m. when an officer scanning yards with a flashlight found her body. The perpetrator left her body close to a gate leading to the back alley. Police found 2 of Luich's teeth along with an adult tooth next to her body. She had been severely and violently beaten. The adult tooth and other evidentiary items were collected by investigators so that they could be used later on. Witnesses came forward, saying they saw a strange man hanging out at a restaurant across the street from the Teutsch house, but he was never located. The case attracted national attention, and hundreds of tips came in from across Canada and the U.S. At one point, there were more than 500 persons of interest in the case. In the 1990s, investigators were able to extract DNA from items found at the crime scene. In 2015, investigators announced that they were able to create a DNA profile of the perpetrator. Investigators sought the services of Parabon Nanolabs, a DNA technology company in Virginia that specializes in DNA phenotyping, the process of predicting physical appearance and ancestry from unidentified DNA evidence. Law enforcement agencies use the company's Snapshot DNA phenotyping service for narrowing suspect lists and generating leads in criminal investigations. Parabon came up with 2 different images. One showed what the suspect looked like at 25 years old when the crime was committed, and the other image showed what the suspect may look like now at approximately 70 years old. In December 2019, Windsor Police Staff Sergeant Scott Chapman announced that Luich Teutsch's case was finally solved. Chapman said that Luich's case was one of the very first Canadian cases that used the technique of genetic genealogy. On ancestry research websites such as GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, users have the option to not share their genetic information with law enforcement. Chapman said police were ultimately able to identify the perpetrator through the DNA of a distant cousin found in a database. Parabon Nanolabs assisted with the identification. Windsor police made the decision at the time not to reveal the unknown man's name. They only said that he recently passed away and settled out west after committing the crime. While police were applauded for finally solving the crime, the refusal to release the man's name was met with some public criticism. Finally, in 2023, Windsor police changed their stance, and it was announced that Frank Arthur Hall was the man responsible. He was 22 years old back in 1971, and Hall lived less than 2 miles from the Teutsch family. He was never a suspect or a person of interest until the DNA match confirmed his guilt. Paul passed away in February 2019 in Edmonton, Canada, just a few months before the DNA match. Windsor Police Staff Sergeant Scott Chapman was the one who announced that Hall was the one responsible. He explained that in 2019, when he announced the case was solved, it was unclear whether they could legally name Hall, since there was such little precedent. That was part of the reason Hall's name was withheld at that time, said Chapman, acknowledging the landscape has since changed as genetic genealogy has become more mainstream. Prior to the release of that information, Chapman flew to Edmonton to tell Hall's family members. They were shocked but showed strength, he said. "We have to keep in mind, whatever Frank Hall did in his life is not a reflection on these people," Chapman said. "They've been victimized by this information too." According to Chapman, police records are unclear as to whether Hall's home was canvassed as part of the initial investigation back in 1971. Hall was, however, known to police in Windsor and in other places, mostly for property crimes like theft, though his name was not known to the public. Other law enforcement agencies have been made aware of Hall since 2019. Now that Hall's name is out there, Chapman believes it could lead to more tips from the public regarding other cases. It will give potentially new life to different investigations, he said. It is entirely possible. On January 3, 1979, in Snohomish County, Washington, a duck hunter embarked on a chilly morning expedition, hoping for a successful day of game hunting. His anticipation was focused on capturing ducks and fish, but his plans took an unexpected turn when he stumbled upon something unusual caught in a fish net along the muddy flats by the shore. Intrigued, he approached the scene only to be met with a chilling discovery: human remains. The identity of the deceased individual remained a mystery, raising questions about what had transpired on that fateful day. Was it an unfortunate accident, or did a more sinister event occur? Snohomish County, a place characterized by its tight-knit community and picturesque landscapes, seemed an unlikely setting for such a perplexing enigma. Despite being the third most populous county in Washington state, it offered a tranquil, small-town lifestyle with a relatively low crime rate. The community thrived on a blend of comfort and stability, making it hard to believe that a decades-long mystery would unfold in this idyllic setting. The new year of 1979 arrived with exceptionally harsh weather conditions in Snohomish County. Freezing temperatures and record-breaking snowfall had enveloped the region, making it challenging for residents to venture outside. January 3rd marked a rare day when the temperature climbed above freezing, allowing the duck hunter to pursue his quest for waterfowl profit. He arrived at the Snohomish River Delta on North Spencer Island, determined to catch ample ducks. Little did he know that this day would lead to a grim discovery. As he scanned the area for ducks, his attention was drawn to a peculiar sight ensnared in a fishing line. Upon closer inspection, he realized he was looking at human remains. Alarmed, he immediately alerted the police, and their arrival at the scene near Everett, Washington, sent shivers down their spines. The duck hunter's description eerily matched the horrifying reality. The scene revealed a macabre tableau. Tangled in the fishing line were clothing items, a shoe, and a partially skeletonized human leg bone. As they explored further, they discovered a checkered shirt, a human skull, ribs, another shoe containing a foot, a leather wallet devoid of its contents, a sock, and a belt. Although these details might appear inconsequential, they held the potential to unlock the identity of the unknown individual. Despite the complexity of the case, there was no immediate suspicion of foul play. Piecing together the events leading to the discovery of these remains presented a daunting task for investigators. The person had been deceased for an extended period, making it challenging to find definitive answers. The remains were subjected to an autopsy in the hopes of gathering any available information. The coroner's findings confirmed that the deceased had been dead for several months, providing a starting point for the investigation. However, efforts to identify the individual through dental records and physical examination yielded no results. As a result, the case was classified as John Doe 79-1, with the cause of death marked as undetermined due to the scarcity of leads. After waiting for approximately 2.5 months, the unidentified man was laid to rest in a lavish grave at Cypress Memorial Park in Everett, Washington, a practice that differs from current procedures, where skeletal remains are retained until identified. The investigation did not conclude with the burial. Both the police and the community continued to search for leads to unveil the John Doe's identity. However, these efforts proved fruitless, and the case eventually went cold. Decades passed and the mystery remained unsolved until 2008, when Sheriff's Detective Jim Scharf and retired Superior Court Judge Ken Kausert revisited the old case files, which had collected dust for years. Despite facing numerous obstacles, they were determined to uncover the truth. The data from the original investigation proved to be sparse and insufficient. Detectives struggled to establish a connection between the description of the mystery man and any missing persons from that era. The lack of digitized records further hindered their progress. Nevertheless, they persisted in their efforts to piece together a profile of the deceased. By 2015, Approximately 36 years had elapsed since the man's discovery, and the investigation remained unresolved. To distinguish the case from numerous other John and Jane Doe cases, detectives gave it the nickname Spencer Eastland. In July 2015, they obtained permission from the Snohomish County judge to exhume John Doe's body from Spencer Eastland. This marked a critical step in their quest for answers. Forensic odontologist Dr. Kyla Tanaka attempted to match the man's dental records with missing persons reports, but found no promising leads. The case was then uploaded to the NAMU's database of missing persons in August 2015, but again, no breakthroughs emerged. Detectives scrutinized the evidence collected in the past, including clothing, wallet, and belt, and concluded that the man likely wore second-hand clothes. They pleaded with the public to come forward with any information, even though immediate identification seemed unlikely. Their persistence paid off in late 2015, when they received a tip suggesting that the description of Spencer Allen John Doe matched that of a missing farmhand from Marysville. This promising lead prompted intense investigation. The man in question had run a fruit stand in Everett, was known for his persistent drinking, had a noticeable limp, and had disappeared in the late 1970s. Detectives pursued this lead diligently, hoping it would bring them closer to the truth. After a month of rigorous investigation, they received a disheartening revelation. They located a tombstone in Yuma, Arizona, for the same farmhand mentioned in the tip. He had passed away in 1981 while in the southwestern desert region, dispelling their hopes of identifying Spencer Allen John Doe through this lead. As detectives continued their relentless pursuit of answers, the medical examiner's office made significant discoveries regarding the deceased man's characteristics. In April 2016, Dr. Kathy Taylor, a forensic anthropologist, examined his exhumed bones. She estimated his age to be between 27 and 61 years old, with a height ranging from 5 feet 1 inch to 5 feet 7 inches. Furthermore, she determined that he had a Native American, Caucasian, or mixed heritage. The investigation delved deeper into the man's medical history, uncovering a gruesome injury. His left femur had been severely shattered and left untreated, causing him to walk with a painful limp. He may have also suffered from temporal mandibular joint syndrome, a painful jaw condition. Despite these apparent medical issues, there was no record of him seeking medical attention, even for his leg injury. The investigation further revealed that he had lost 2 left anterior top teeth and 2 molars, with healed sockets indicating they were lost before his death. He had alloy fillings in 3 teeth, suggesting access to dental care. The detectives were left with numerous unanswered questions regarding the man's life and the reasons behind his neglect of medical care in later years. The possibility that he may have been an inmate crossed their minds, but it seemed unlikely, as his distinctive features would have made him memorable to those who encountered him. The case relied heavily on theories and speculations, with detectives aware that even the smallest details could hold the key to unraveling the mystery. In 2018, a portion of the man's femur was sent to Othram Labs, a private forensic genealogy company funded by DNAsolves.com. This initiative aimed to use advanced DNA testing to identify the man. Eventually, a match was found through the GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA databases, leading to the identification of the John Doe as Gary Lee Haney on February 10, 2023. Gary's life had been marked by turmoil and hardship. Born in 1950 as Gary Joseph Condamiti, he faced early challenges with his parents' divorce and adoption by his mother's new husband, Sheldon Lee Haney. The family traveled extensively due to Sheldon's military service and work with Boeing. Despite his passion for music and interests, Gary was believed to have had a mental disorder, possibly autism or schizophrenia, which led to his isolation from the extended family. In the later years of his life, Gary disappeared from his family's radar, and he was declared legally dead in 1976, 3 years before his remains were discovered on Spencer Island. Sheldon Haney's failure to report his son missing raised suspicions about his involvement in Gary's disappearance. The revelation of Gary's identity stirred hope that someone might hold the missing puzzle piece to his mysterious disappearance and death. The investigation uncovered a web of secrets and lies, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. Gary Lee Haney's life remained shrouded in mystery, both before and after his tragic demise. As the news of Gary's identity spread, there was a growing sense of hope that someone out there might have the missing piece of the puzzle, that crucial bit of information that could shed light on his mysterious disappearance and tragic death. In the picturesque town nestled among the stunning mountains of Preston County, West Virginia, with a population of approximately 1,500 residents, Terra Alta stands as a testament to natural beauty and a rich historical legacy. The town's charm and welcoming community spirit have long been celebrated by its inhabitants. However, it was within this idyllic setting that a tragic incident unfolded on August 22, 1972, claiming the life of a 13-year-old boy named Jeremiah Matthew Watkins. Jeremiah, lovingly known as Jerry to his parents, James Edward Watkins and Enid Nicola, was born in a Morgantown home in Monongalia County, West Virginia. Unfortunately, his family's dreams of a happy and complete life were shattered when James passed away in 1976, just 4 years after Jeremiah's birth. Despite this profound loss, Enid displayed remarkable resilience and dedicated herself entirely to raising her son, hoping for a fresh start in life. Overcoming numerous obstacles, Enid made the decision to move to Terra Alta, determined to provide Jeremiah with the best possible life. Jeremiah, for his part, was content with life's simple pleasures. As he grew, his adventurous spirit became increasingly evident, as he could often be seen riding his bicycle through the hills of Terra Alta while singing along to the tunes of old-time rock and roll. It remains uncertain whether Enid ever remarried, but in the mid-1980s, she welcomed a daughter named Jamie Jeremiah into their lives. Jeremiah cherished his baby sister immensely and cherished every moment spent with her. He would play with her for hours, bringing laughter to her little world. Despite his gentle and patient nature with his younger sibling, Jeremiah eagerly awaited the day when Jamie would take her first steps, sharing candy and tender moments with her. The last time Jeremiah laid eyes on his beloved sister was in 1985, when he was 13 years old, and Jamie was approximately a year old. While the exact date is unclear, it was in early November of that year when Jeremiah left home to explore the town, but tragically never returned. When Enid could not locate her son anywhere in Terra Alta, she reported him missing. This marked the beginning of a distressing period, not just for Jeremiah's family, but for the entire state of West Virginia, as it coincided with a devastating flood that swept through the region. The flood, one of the deadliest natural disasters in West Virginia's history, claimed 47 lives, injured countless others, and caused extensive property damage totaling an estimated $580 million. Amid the chaos and destruction, the search for Jeremiah was severely hampered by the floodwaters. Despite the relentless efforts of law enforcement, the 13-year-old boy remained missing, and Enid clung to hope for his safe return. However, that hope was shattered on November 2, 1985, when officers stumbled upon a shallow grave along the railroad tracks in Terra Alta. Upon closer examination, they made a gruesome discovery. Jeremiah's lifeless body lay in the shallow grave. Initially, it appeared as though he had fallen victim to the devastating flood. However, a closer inspection revealed a stab wound on Jeremiah's body, suggesting a more sinister and violent end. The investigation swiftly transitioned into a homicide inquiry as law enforcement scoured the area for clues. Unfortunately, luck did not favor the investigators, as the flood had washed away potential evidence, leaving them with more questions than answers. An autopsy revealed that Jeremiah had suffered a brain bleed from blunt force trauma to his head, but the fatal blow had come from the stab wound in his back. The loss of Jeremiah devastated his family, who grieved in silence while hoping for justice to be served. The Terra Alta detectives worked tirelessly, interviewing numerous individuals and pursuing every lead, but their efforts yielded no suspects or arrests. As time passed, the case grew cold, and Enid, frustrated by the lack of progress, attempted to move forward with her life as Jamie grew older. Nevertheless, the questions surrounding her brother's death continued to haunt her. In the early 2000s, while attending college, Jamie made the courageous decision to reach out to authorities in an attempt to uncover the truth about her brother's murder. Regrettably, her efforts were met with discouragement as many believed that finding the culprit after so many years was unlikely. In February 2023, Captain Tian Ticknell of the Preston County Sheriff's Office took it upon himself to revisit the decades-old unsolved murder case of Jeremiah. He delved deep into the case, meticulously reviewing old files, interviews, and witness statements. During this thorough examination, Captain Ticknell stumbled upon an interview with a young man named David Monroe Adams. Adams, who was only 18 years old at the time of Jeremiah's murder and a resident of Terra Alta, had provided a statement with inconsistencies, prompting further investigation. Authorities have not disclosed the specific inconsistencies that caught Captain Ticknell's attention, but they soon located David Adams, who was living in Westover, West Virginia. After several interviews, Adams initially denied any involvement in Jeremiah's death. However, during one of these interviews, he finally confessed to the murder. Adams revealed that on that fateful day in November 1985, he had engaged in a heated argument with Jeremiah over a stolen bicycle. This disagreement had escalated into a violent confrontation, with Adams striking Jeremiah in the face in a fit of rage. Unable to decide how to proceed, Adams dragged the injured boy to a nearby shed, where he ultimately fatally stabbed him. Afterward, he disposed of Jeremiah's lifeless body in a shallow grave near the train tracks. This confession marked a significant breakthrough in the case and provided a semblance of closure to Jeremiah's family, who had waited for justice for nearly 4 decades. David Adams, now 56 years old, was promptly taken into custody and charged with second-degree murder in connection to Jeremiah Watkins's death. He is currently being held on a $1 million bond in North Central. Upon hearing the news, Enid and Jamie were overwhelmed with a range of emotions. Although questions surrounding the murder still linger, they found solace in the fact that the perpetrator had finally been apprehended and could no longer pose a threat to anyone else. It was a bittersweet moment, one that allowed them to begin healing after years of uncertainty and anguish.